Roots and Roofs, where we explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship in the real estate world. I am your host, Mackenzie Shelton. Join us as we dive into the unique journey of balancing family life with owning a thriving real estate business. Each episode, we will uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, mindset conversations, and expert insights from others who are carving their paths in the real estate industry. Whether you are a seasoned realtor, a prospective buyer, or simply curious about the dynamics of managing both home and career, Roots and Roofs is your go-to podcast for heartfelt discussions and invaluable advice. Tune in and discover how these incredible women are building deep roots from the ground up while nurturing their families under the same roof. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Roots and Roofs. I'm Mackenzie Shelton, the host, and I have a really awesome guest with me today. My friend Nicole is here with, we're going to kind of talk about multiple businesses that she runs and stuff like that. So, Nicole, thank you very much for joining me. Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Snyder. I'm from Glenwood, Iowa. So I'm a country down south girl. I actually run multiple businesses, and it's chaotic and wild. I actually started my business journey with, well, a little bit of background. I was a teacher for 4 years. Then once we adopted two of our kids, I became a stay-at-home mom. And then from there, after like 7.5 years, I started a cleaning company. And the cleaning company kind of is still, it is still around in full force, but from that it turned into, we moved to some land, started a farm, and we also are now a raw milk dairy. So on top of running a cleaning crew with full-time employees, I also now have milk cows that get milked every 12 hours. So it's constant and chaotic, and we also homeschool 3 of our kids, potentially 4. We have 5 kids total, ages like 15 to almost 8. So it's busy.
Your life is crazy.
It's not as crazy. Yesterday I put the mower through the fence, the electric fence. Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Yesterday I could not make up. And I'm just like, this is insanity. So
pretty much every day. I feel like everything I see on your stories is insanity every day.
So I actually used to have a podcast as well at some point when I was a stay-at-home mom. And so I sort of built a little bit of a social media following. And so I do share a lot on social media when it decides to load. It's one of those things where, like, yesterday I just started recording videos. And I'm glad I did and didn't post anything because my husband is a steam fitter. So he's in shutdown season right now, and he's working long days. And I did not need to have him see me putting the zero-turn mower in the electric fence, pulling it out with a skid loader and chain. I mean, it was a moment. But yeah, so I do share a lot of that. And some days I'm like, I can't even make this up. What are other people doing? Are they bored all day? Like sitting there twiddling their thumbs? I don't know.
Pretty much. Well, okay, so let's just kind of start with a couple of the questions here. What inspired you to transition from being a stay-at-home mom? Because I actually met you when you were a stay-at-home mom.
Yep.
What inspired you to do that? Because literally it kind of just seemed like, for me, from the outside perspective, that you just like woke up one day and were like, I want to start a cleaning business.
Well, you're in real estate.
Yeah.
So we bought land in 2020. Mackenzie actually helped us with that. And so we bought land in 2020 and started building like a barn dominium style house in 2021. And if you know anything about anything, in 2021, building costs were outrageous.
Yep.
And I was looking at what it was going to take for us to build what we wanted to build. And I don't really waver on like what I want, and where there's a will, there's a way. And if it's God's will, it's God's bill, and money will come one way or another. And when that all happened, I was actually February 24th, 2021. I can't remember what I ate for breakfast, but I can remember that. And I was on my Instagram story, and I was like, this building is going to like cost so much money. I think I need to go back to work. And I was like, what do I do? I've been home for 7.5 years. I could never work for somebody again. Like, are you kidding me? You're going to tell me what time I have to be somewhere? No.
No.
Instead, I work for cows now, but I digress. And so I was on there and I was like, okay, I mean, we were prepping to sell our house. And so I had a couple people, they're like, you shared this and like, it was really good. Maybe you clean. And I was like, ugh, what? People want to pay me to do that? No way. And so I like put it out there. And this is a suggestion I make to anybody that's wanting to start a business. You're only worth what somebody's willing to pay you. And so I worked for free. You were one of my free clients.
Yeah.
I did 6 2-hour cleans for people. So 6 different people for 2 hours. I went and cleaned for free. And I said, if you're happy with what you got, will you just tell somebody?
Yep.
Like just share about it. And then we'll go from there. And that's what I did. And it really snowballed. So like I would say the first week of March is when of 2021 is when I started cleaning. It really snowballed into and then we moved into our camper. Like that's a little fun fact. I built this business while we were selling our house and living in a camper with 4 kids. So it was chaotic, and I was running my cleaning company out of a storage unit, which I don't even know if that's legal. But I had all of my supplies in the storage in the storage unit. And I would go to the storage unit in the morning and fill my van up with everything that I needed. It was wild. But anyways, so I started that, and it kind of snowballed to where June of 2021, I put my kids in like a summer program full time, and I worked full time. But there was so many things like during that time that I missed. I was still a stay-at-home mom. So I would work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I would get a babysitter for Thursday and Friday. So I'd be home with my kids Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, babysitter Thursday, Friday, and then work through the weekend. So like YMCA sports on the weekend, my husband was handling all of that. And it was just one of those things where I was like, I feel like this is going to be a short time, hard grind that I have to do to get this off the ground. And it's paid off. And so I went from I went full time, Monday through Friday. I was working probably 60 hours. In June, I hired my first employee in July, and it's just kind of grown and evolved from there. And then we built our house, and more came with all of that. But yeah, so it was just something that it was pure financial, but it was wild kind of when you lean into the way things are being, like you're being pulled a certain direction.
Yeah. And
you lean into it and listen, and it's worked out.
I can enjoy the sentiment of like, you just got to lean into what God's telling you to do.
1,000%.
Yeah. I mean, that's been pretty much my entire real estate career. It's like, I kind of went kicking and screaming into the industry, mostly because my husband was like, well, he was my boyfriend at the time, was like, you are not meant to be a nurse. You are not compassionate enough.
I honestly can't picture you being a nurse.
No.
At all. At all.
My problem was I had graduated with a degree in social work and then like literally couldn't get a job doing that. So I was working in property management for a real estate company. And while that was great, I was kind of like, man, I'm not really like making very much money doing this. And so I was like, what business makes a lot, or, you know, like what do people make a lot of money doing? I was like, nurses actually make a pretty good salary. So that was the only, like, money was like my only motivation really to do that. And he was like, not a good reason to do this.
Do you remember the conversation that we had spring of 2021?
Oh my gosh.
I was on the phone with you and I said, hey, I'm curious about real estate.
Yes.
Maybe I'll get into real estate. I'm going to try this cleaning thing out until the kids go to school in August, because I wasn't planning on homeschooling past August. I was like, when they go to school in August, we'll touch base. And then in August, I was in a completely different space with the cleaning company. And
yeah. And actually, I think it's been a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten the opportunity to like literally see it from its infancy.
Right.
And you have really flourished.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it's this weird segue between like you ended up, I think, getting the opportunity to really be immersed in like the Southwest Iowa communities, which has then translated over to everything that you guys are doing on your farm too.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. And so just to get into that, because I know that was one of your questions, kind of how we transitioned. So I I'm from Southwest Iowa. I'm from Glenwood originally, born and raised. We lived in Council Bluffs for like 7-8 years, and then up in Underwood for 7.5 years. My husband's from Underwood originally. And so we made a lot of ties up there. And then I already had some connections down in Glenwood, but like the entire environment had changed in the however many years I'd been gone. I literally moved out the day after I graduated high school. So
oh, that's right.
I'd been gone a while.
Yeah.
And so I'd been in with the cleaning company dealing with a lot of people, whether it's like actual clients. We deal with a lot of realtors. Like right now, the real estate market's wild. Like we're dealing with a lot of realtors right now. And so I've made a lot of connections through that. And then also just being a local. And then when I kind of had on my heart that I wanted a dairy animal of my own. And
yes, please tell everyone how you ended up with multiple dairy cows.
Oh man. So I wanted to be able to be a little bit self-sufficient. That was my whole thing. Like, let's, have some self-sufficiency. The way that all good homestead people start. We have 10.5 acres, and I was like, we're going to be able to grow our own food, can it, do all the things. We don't need to go to town for anything. Everybody, that's a lie. Hear me when I say that's a lie. That is not happening. Just lean into it and it's fine. You're not a failure.
It is 100% a lie.
Yeah, that's not happening.
So I think let's talk about that for just a second, because we're both living that life.
Correct.
I think that it is wildly romanticized on Instagram and TikTok and, wherever else on social media. And while a lot of it is honestly romantic and wonderful, like it is, the reality is I don't think in 2025 people can be like 1,000,000% self-sufficient.
No.
And on top of that, like, a lot of people's lives just don't lend to that. Like, we're doing all of the things, a huge garden and animals and, all of those things. And yet at the same time, I still go to Costco once a month, you know?
Right. Well, and I think the thing is and that's what I've actually told everybody that has talked to me about wanting to get their own dairy animal. I kill people's dreams. That's what I do on the daily when people ask me about it. And it's not me being pessimistic. It's just me being real, because I don't want somebody to get into something and be overwhelmed and have it affect their family, because I've witnessed that with other people, or have it affect the animal. I've rescued multiple cows from bad situations where it wasn't the fault of the people who owned it. They just got in over their head and they didn't have the knowledge and the know-how in order to make it a successful time. And so what I always tell people, so like going back, you need community. It's not that you need to be independent. You need community. And so, for example, like I barter, like for some of my milk customers, because we'll get to it. We're bobbing and weaving. It's fine.
It's fine.
Just
this is how this goes.
Flow with it. Okay. But for a lot of my milk customers, not a lot, a couple of my milk customers, I do like some bartering, like, hey, my hay guy that I buy from, guess what? He doesn't pay for his milk, but he delivers my hay and I don't have to pay for it at all.
Yep.
So there's situations like that where like, that's not in my wheelhouse. I don't have the equipment or the land in order to be able to do all of my own hay. I have to buy it from somebody. I'd rather be able to do a trade of some type and have it be mutually beneficial to everybody. And so you need community, and it's just one of those things. So what happened was I wanted this homestead life. And so we did all the things, and I started with dairy goats. And that was my litmus test for myself, because I knew I wanted to get a Jersey cow. I wanted to be Hannah from Ballerina Farm. You know what I mean? I wanted the flowy dress. Turns out most of the time I'm in my husband's t-shirt and gym shorts, and there's manure up and down my leg, like last week when I fell into it.
That's again like the romanticizing of it. Her husband is like a gazillionaire, and they have a bunch of employees that help them on their farm. And while I think it's wonderful that she has like kind of created this persona on Instagram, it is not reality.
It is not reality. And I mean, honestly, I'm not going to take anything away from them. They work their tails off. Yeah. I don't think anything was really, I mean, financially, they're well off, but nothing there was built just on a whim. And I think they've worked their tails off for it. But that's correct. That has tainted so many people for what their expectations are of themselves, when that's just not the case. Not everybody has full-time employees on your farm 24/7, nor would I want it.
Yes.
I want to be able to be, you know, looking a fool in my backyard and not have an employee come around the corner. Because
seriously,
you need some privacy every once in a while. But I got dairy goats. We got 2 dairy goats. We had Lamasha goats. Those are the ones that look like they have no ears and kind of like aliens, but great temperament and everything like that. And I milked them for almost a year. And in that time, I also bought Renee, who's like our matriarch of our dairy herd. And we milked twice a day, everything like that. And then Renee had her calf, and I milked her starting in like September of whatever year it was, for almost like 8 months before I ever sold any milk. And the only reason I sold milk is because I say people bullied me into it.
I was one of those people. I was like, please give me your extra milk.
Right. And it's one of those things where there is such a high need for nutrient-dense food. We live in a food desert in Southwest Iowa. And everyone will be like, oh, there's crops everywhere. No, there's row crop. There's corn, and there's beans, and there's some hay fields, and there's red and black Angus. And that's all you're getting. You're not getting anything else. Everything on our farm has come from 3+ hours away, some farther. Like Renee is from Illinois. Another one of our cows is from Illinois. Another one's from almost Minnesota. Like, we've had to travel for everything we have on our farm because there's nothing here locally. And I mean, it just is what it is. But there was such a need. And I really felt like God called me to be where we are. First of all, the way we found our land and got to where we are, like, he had his hand in that.
100%.
Can I tell the story of how we found our land?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all buckle up, because it was wild. So we were out looking for land. We had been looking for land for a while. And Mackenzie had known this, but like we just couldn't find anything. And we went driving down in Glenwood to see about this 3 acres that sat on this terrible property. Like, it was literally a ravine. There was nowhere to build. And I was like, this isn't going to work. It's 6 o'clock. We have all the kids in the van. They're crying. They're hungry. And it's like, Jason, let's go get them dinner. And he's like, well, let's drive down this gravel road. And I'm on Zillow and I'm looking. And I'm like, there's nothing. You know when you're married and you're just like, just listen to me.
Just listen to me. Our children
There's
are hungry.
nothing. They're hungry. It's making me agitated. Can we go now, please? Thank you so much. And so I'm like, there's nothing here. And he's like, oh, let's just go down this road. I was like, fine. We're already in the middle of nowhere, but okay. And so we start driving, and he's like, I think I see a sign up there. I was like, there's no sign up there. Well, there was a sign up there. And I was like, oh, see, it's sold. That one's sold. There's another sign. That one's sold. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. We get to the top of the hill, which is now our property, and there was a sign there, and it didn't say sold. And I go, I don't like it. And he's like,
I didn't know this.
Yes.
Oh
And
my
he's like,
gosh.
I was like, I don't like it. And he's like, okay, well, let's keep driving. And we go down the hill and up another hill, and there's another sign for like 12.5 acres. And I was like, oh, I love this. We could build on top of this hill up here. Sunrise, sunset. Ooh, this is perfect. We drive up there, and I call you that night. I was like, we want to put an offer in on this land. And you're like, okay. We put the offer in, and we go home that night, so excited. And then the next day, we had like a date night planned of some type. I was like, let's drive back out to the land. Like, we haven't heard back on the offer yet, but like, let's drive out to the land. You want to talk about God telling you absolutely not. You need to listen to your husband and obey, because this is what you should be doing. And I was like, what is happening? We get out of the van. And when I say we were like, it was a swarm of mosquitoes.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
We're talking
this.
like, I ran back to the car. It was the wildest thing I've ever experienced in my life, like dive bombing me. And I was like, what is happening? I was like, Jason, no, we can't do this. I'm not doing this. He's like, well, what about that 10.5 acres over there? And I was like, fine, we'll go look at it. And we go and look at it, and we walk it a little bit. And I was like, fine. Well, that next morning, our offer was denied on the 12 acres. And we gave the same exact offer on the 10.5, and it was accepted right away.
Yeah.
I was like, this is where we're meant to be. So with all of these things at play, when it came to getting the dairy cows and starting to sell raw milk and everything like that, I found that when I lean into what I feel called to do, things happen.
Yeah.
They move out of my way. It's not easy, but it feels like an easy decision. Like there's less roadblocks.
Yes.
Whereas when I was trying to do the 12 and a half acres, I'm like putting a square peg in a round hole. It's just not happening. And if I had forced it, it would have been real bad. And I say that because that land sold like 3 more times. And then finally,
yes,
there's people building on it now. But yeah. And so we started selling milk, and it's transitioned to, we serve like 100 families a week right now, which is wild. I'm on a bunch of raw milk group pages, and everybody does like all these drops and everything. And I said, no, I do on-farm pickup. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not dropping it off. If you want it, you can come get it, which sounds mean, but I'm not. I don't. There's enough of a need, and I still have people on our wait list. Like, I've got to do what's right for my family, and doing drop-offs was not it.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Agreed. Well, and I know, like, for myself, like Kim, who was actually on my podcast a couple weeks ago.
Fun.
Yeah. She and I, like, we live, not even 5 minutes away from each other. So we've always just lined it up to pick up each other's. And I think it works out really well. I think going back to like what you said, like, even with the cleaning stuff, like people will pay you, what they think you're worth. People will also come to you.
Right.
If they think that you're worth it.
Right.
Right. So yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
and the thing is I've had somebody ask me, like, how has this happened? Like, how did you create these connections? And not to sound conceited, but I think like I'm the special sauce in that, in the sense of I've worked in sales since I was 16. I started off working at Sears selling jewelry, and then transitioned to selling electronics. I worked commission at 17. Like, that's not something that most people have ever experienced. And so I've always been like a people person, and being able to be like making connections and also being relatable. Like, I was talking to my friend this morning. I was like, hey, I got to go do a podcast. She's like, what are you going to talk about? I said, haven't even opened the email yet. And she goes, what? Don't you need to prepare? And I said, why? I said, I live my life so authentically that there's no like image to keep up and story to like tell, because it is what it is.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And so I think that comes through. Like right now, I could tell you, I have 36 unread text messages, and I know they're all from customers. So customers, if you're seeing this, I see it, but if I clear that notification, guess what? I'm not going back to it. Mm-hmm. So that's going to just loom until I get like stressed enough, and then I'll just batch out all of my responses.
I seriously don't know. Okay, so this is how Jack's brain works too, because you've talked about having ADHD, right?
1,000%.
Yes. So Jack does too. Okay.
Yeah.
If I go like an hour with unread text messages, like my brain like would implode. Like I get so stressed out about it. If I'm in, like, for instance, when I do podcasts with people, like I will end up with 14, 15 text messages just in like an hour. So also, it's not realistic for me to like not sit there and answer stuff. I actually had to get a new phone recently. And I needed to transfer over all of my text messages, and it was like not working. And the guy was like, well, how many like text messages do you have? And I said, I have no idea. And he said, well, how many do you think you get a day? And I said, I don't know, probably 100. And he goes, 100 a day? Oh. And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That makes me want to check. If you check your screen time, this is not something that was on here. But yeah, no, it'll tell you like how many pickups you have and everything like that. Like today alone, I've had 38 notifications. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, but this is where, so I used to be psychotic about making sure everything got replied to, like early on in business.
Yeah.
I would say, so we started in 2021. I would say, okay, for those of you that don't know, my husband had cancer. He had testicular cancer. We went through chemo, surgery, like all the things. It was a really tough year and a half. And in the midst of that, my dad died. So there was all of these life-changing moments that happened. And I realized, like, okay, what matters? What matters? The people getting responded to, like, I require a lot of grace, and I give a lot of grace.
Sure.
And so I realized, like, this doesn't matter. If it's an emergency, SOS it, right?
Oh, sure.
Or call me. Mm-hmm. Like, if you text me and then you call me, I'm like, oh, something's up. But if it's just a text, I'll get back to you at some point. But it's not an emergency because either my kids need something, my husband needs something. I'm running through fences on the farm. Okay? Like, things are happening.
Yeah.
And I give that same grace to other people where I'm like, hey, you know what? I totally get it. Like, life is wild. And that's where the living authentically comes into it of, I'll tell, like, when we were going through chemo with Jason, I'd be like, hey, we're in chemo this week. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. And people are like, totally understand it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where that year and a half of all of that really like flipped a switch in my brain where I'm like, this is not the end all be all. Like, money will come, money will go. Business will come, business will go. The people I want to work with and do business with will stick around because they will see I'm a real person. I'm not a machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And life is going to life. Like, people, I'll get, and there's, have I lost business over it? Sure. 1000%. Did I want to work for people that are that neurotic? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably didn't want to. So that's God just moving them out of my way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
well, and I think you do still have some really good like systems and processes in place. Maybe kind of talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Farm life and, you know, cleaning business wise.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the ways that you're even daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, setting yourself up for success within your businesses?
Okay. So success, we're skimming by sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the definition of success? Everyone's alive. Perfect. So I have an operations manager, for my cleaning company. She also works like for it. Like, so it's not just like a sole office job, but she oversees a lot of the day-to-day like hiccups that might happen on jobs. She calls me when things are needed and things like that. But she kind of holds it down with the girls. I don't have to hear, you know, when you employ women, sometimes there's drama and sometimes I don't need to hear about it. Okay.
Yep.
Is it necessary for me to hear about what somebody, nope, figure it out. And so that's helpful. I also use a couple apps for like scheduling and appointment reminders. Early on, before I ever used any apps, I literally reached out to customers. Oh my goodness. Every single time I booked them. And I was like, does this work? I don't do that anymore. I say, hey, if you're monthly, guess what? You're probably going to be about every 4 weeks. You'll get a message the week before on the day that we're going to come. If it doesn't work, reach out. Let me know. We'll readjust. And so I use Square for everything, from appointments to billing to all of that.
Okay. Cool.
And so they send out appointment, like I put everything in, they send out appointment reminders to cleaning customers and things like that. And so that really, once I get it in, I'm really hands off during the week for that, except for invoicing and things like that. And then for the milk business, I've assigned everybody a day. And so I just have to make sure the milk's out for the people they can pick up. I give them a big window of like 7 to 7. We're real redneck. Like, there's not a couch on the front porch, but there is a shed with a fridge in it. So, you know what? Grateful hearts around here. It's working, and that's all that matters.
So side note, I had the opportunity to go to Joel Salatin's farm last year. And Jack, we took a trip to Virginia. Like, we kind of made a whole thing of it, you know, but then for like a day and a half, I got to go to this like Homestead Women's Conference, which was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
But getting the opportunity to go to his homestead, right? The first thing that Jack pointed out, because I am so type A and neurotic, he's like, Mackenzie, I need you to look around and see that nothing is perfect here. Mm-hmm. He was like, nothing is perfect. He was like, there's a pile of crap over here. There's this, you know, all that stuff. And it actually was really good to see something like someone who is literally famous.
Yes.
Living just like we were. Right. You know, and every time I go to your farm, I'm always like, it's exactly how a farm should look.
Well, and that's the thing is like, if you're listening to this and you're like, I want a homestead, just get happy with piles of crap. Like,
and saving everything for one day.
Okay. Perfect example. When we built our house, you know, they have these, so it's a barn dominium situation. So they have these boards that hang over and then they have to all cut them to even lengths and things like that. And so they were throwing them in the dumpster. And I said, oh, no. We're digging those out. And I bet we dug out, I don't know, 300 18 to 36 inch 2x4s out of a dumpster and stacked them in a pile. Guess how many 2x4s are left? None of them. Do you know how often do you need an 18 inch 2x4? So often.
Yeah.
And then all the, like, from when they cut the steel for the side, saved it all. Guess what? Lined my chicken coops, the outside, all the steel.
Perfect.
We have used literally all of the building materials that were left over from our house built, because turns out you pay for it, right? And that was my whole thing. I go, oh, no. We paid for that. Why are you throwing it in a dumpster? We literally paid for that. Like, I know how much that would cost. We're not throwing it away. I know. I am like the Cool Whip grandma. You know, like how you never know if there's actually Cool Whip in the fridge. It's probably leftovers because they saved the container. Yes. I was like, we're saving everything.
Oh my gosh, that's a perfect name for you.
Yeah.
Can we just start calling
right?
you that?
I'm just like, there's no point in getting rid of it. Would I prefer it was a bit more organized? Yes. But guess what? According to the county, my shipping container is worth $10,000, and there's not even electrical. I could get a rollback and pick it up, but I digress. I don't have a barn yet.
Yeah.
Dirt work starts hopefully next week for
Oh
our
my gosh,
shop.
really?
Yeah, we're putting up a 50 by 100. It's going to be literally the same size as my house, but taller.
That is so
Yeah,
awesome.
so it'll have a here I am speaking to the public, putting this into the, now it has to happen, right?
Yep.
It's going to have a farm shop in it with an Airbnb above it, like a on-site agro-tourism situation, and then a shop in between, and then on the other end it'll have a milking parlor and milk processing room.
I love that so much.
Putting it out there. Again, if it's God's will, it's God's bill, so he needs to figure that bill out.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
love
so
that.
that's going to happen. Just another like stream of income type situation. Always looking for that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just eventually I'll be able to hide my piles of crap. But for right now, they're in the backyard along the hog fence.
Yep.
So
And probably will be for a while. And then there will be a
Probably.
new pile for whatever.
Oh yeah, because we're gonna put up another building. There's gonna be more 2x4s. We're gonna have a fresh pile of 2x4s. Oh, that's the other thing. My garden boxes, those are from pieces of wood that we found that like when I built our garden box, and then because we have a couple raised beds, and the steel from that is also from our building. Everyone's like, oh, where'd you get all this like black and charcoal steel?
Well.
Yeah, in the house. Yeah.
That's perfect. Okay, so since we were kind of talking about systems and processes, since this is also a podcast about being a mom,
Yes.
kind of talk a little bit, especially because you homeschool some of your kids,
Yep.
and maybe now all of your kids.
We'll see how the summer goes.
Okay, all right, fair. If that is the case, like, what are some things that you have in place, like, for your family to help keep your sanity?
Okay, so my kids have responsibilities on the farm. So like daily, my kids take care of all of our laying chickens, whether that's food, water, collecting eggs, cartoning eggs, all of that. They also get to keep that money.
Okay.
We've actually started, they've kind of started their own group of like their own little business. Lane's in charge of it. He's my 11-year-old. I have to say this. He goes, Mom, if you're going to be on a podcast, will you say that you have Lane, who's 11 and he's real strong? And I go, yeah, strong-willed. But yeah, I'll plug you. But anyway, so Lane's 11 and he kind of heads up the operation. And then Jace and Ruby are 10 and almost 8. And they, quote unquote, work for him. Caden, my 12-year-old, is applying to be rehired because he got fired once already. But
can we please hear the story?
I wish I knew why he got fired.
Oh.
All I know that he was like begging and pleading that he could get rehired. And I go, I don't know what happened, but again, I don't need to know. Nope, I don't need to know. So anyways, so Lane has 2 employees, and one gets paid like $12 a week and one gets paid $5 because the one that pays $5 just cartons eggs.
Okay.
The one that gets paid $12 fills water and feed buckets and all that sort of stuff. So he's negotiated it. I've had nothing to do with that operation. So I buy
Do you ever have to referee them or anything?
No, because I'm like,
them?
I say, figure it out or I take it back.
Okay.
So they figure it out because otherwise they're out that money.
Yeah.
I mean, I never have eggs in stock. I sometimes don't have eggs. So like we go through, yeah, it's wild. And so they handle all of that. So that's one thing that is nice because it's off my plate. Also like all of our milk is sold in half-gallon glass jars. Some people bring them back clean. Some people bring them back crusty and dusty. Like, it's just gross. So everything gets washed when it comes back. and sanitized in the dishwasher and everything. And the kids' responsibility is that they have to bring in all those jars every single time, like a couple times a day. They go and check to see what's for jars. They bring them in. I load and everything like that for the dishwasher. But then the kids, that's the other responsibility. That dishwasher, to some kids, they would think, oh, that's no big deal. Like, I can unload the dishwasher. No, we're unloading it like 4 to 5 times a day.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're in the market for a commercial dishwasher.
I was going to say, you need a commercial dishwasher.
I know, because those cycles are like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I know. But I'm like, where do I put it? Put it in the garage. I'm like, when we have a building. But so that's their job. They do that as well. And then, you know, as far as school goes and things like that, I'm not going to say we're unschoolers because that feels like we're just in the woods doing nothing. We do like follow a curriculum.
Oh, I've been to your house and watched. I mean, yeah, your kids are doing curriculum.
They're doing curriculum, but some weeks we're going to do it 5 days a week. Some days we're not, or some weeks we're not doing school at all because it's too hectic on the farm. And like today, my kids were bribed with Xbox to keep everybody alive and well while I come to town to do all this stuff. So I was like, you know what I mean? There's ebbs and flows. I'm very 80-20. Like, you know, we don't do dyes in our food for our kids, but like if we're at a baseball game, we have baseball 4 nights this week of games and they're all an hour away. You're going to have some nacho cheese. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? It's an 80-20 and I don't believe in like restricting my kids to the point of them feeling like resentment and things like that. And
well, and maybe developing some like unhealthy habits themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like, I think that especially when it comes to the homesteading and getting your kids involved, I don't want them to resent their childhood. I don't want them to feel like mom and dad worked us to the bone 24/7. We were never able to do something. And so they've had to sacrifice a lot because like mom has milk cows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To the point where like the sacrifice also has to be on me. So for example, like we were in Shenandoah and didn't get home until like 9:30 last night. My farmhand that works like a relief milking a week for me milked last night for me, which was great because we had to leave by like 4:00. But he can't milk tonight for me. So I milked this morning and then I'm going to have to milk after we get back from baseball, and baseball tonight's in Avoca.
Of course.
An hour and 5 minutes away. So it's going to be like a 9 p.m. milking, but I'd rather do that instead of like sacrifice not going to my kids' baseball game.
Absolutely.
So there's just this give and take. And so I just think it's really important to anybody that wants to get their kids involved would be to be realistic in what you're going to get them involved with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like we process chickens on Saturday. And so
how many did you do?
We are going to butcher for ourselves. We're going to well, not just for ourselves. We've sold a big chunk of them. But from our farm, we'll butcher like 75 chickens. And then our friends are bringing their chickens in and they've got another 35. So we'll butcher about 100 chickens on Saturday. In the state of Iowa, you can butcher 1,000 birds on farm for direct to consumer sales. So we'll butcher those. And then we will, like most of them are sold, but the kids will help they enjoy that. So they'll help Jason, you know, dispatch them. They'll carry them up to me for scalding and plucking and all that sort of stuff. And then they get to go play afterwards. Like once their job's done, I'm not making them sit for the whole thing.
No.
Because I'm exhausted afterwards.
Yeah. Because
I do all of the plucking, all the scalding, plucking, and gutting. Like I do that whole section just because I'm a little neurotic about it. And I want to make sure it's done right. Have one bad experience of it not getting done right, and you'll do it yourself every single time after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I let them be as involved or not involved as they want. I mean, there are some forced marches that I make them do, you know, like there's no option. You are helping with this. But for the most part, like give a little, take a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of operate the same way. Like, again, our dynamic is a little different because Jack is home most days and he's doing a lot of the farm things. But especially when the kids are home in the summer, like they need to help with stuff, you know? And I don't see any reason why they can't.
Correct.
You know? So, yeah.
Yeah. No.
And we don't pay them. We're just like, you get to live here.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're going to help with stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't pay them either. The money that they get from their chicken stuff is from customers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's not from me.
Nice.
So if they don't sell eggs because they dropped an entire basket of eggs, they're not getting money. Okay. Sorry about it. No, I'm not forking out a dime. But what's funny is once those kids get their own money, that's how you breed motivation in kids.
Oh, yeah.
How many trust fund babies are there out there that they don't know? First of all, they don't know how money works. They don't know how budgeting works. They don't know where it comes from or the hard work that goes into it.
Yeah.
It's wild to me. And so there's small dice right now, you know, there's nothing huge, but like I've had my kids know that when they graduate high school, they have 4 options. They can go into the military, they can go to work, they can go to college, they can go to trade school, but they can't be a lazy pile of crap.
Absolutely.
Like that's just not an option. Mom and dad aren't going to pay for your bills or anything like that. And they're like, well, can I live at home? I'm like, yeah, but you're paying rent. And I said, and I'm actually not going to use that rent as my plan. It's going to go into an account when you buy a house. Guess what? You'll have that money to go towards it, but you're paying still. If you don't pay in, guess what? Get out. Like, cause you're doing nothing.
So we actually have established something similar. Jaden is obviously going to be a senior this year.
Wild to me.
I know.
I feel like he was just like this little teeny bopper.
I know. So yeah, we've talked about this, that he can live at home. He is going to contribute financially. He's going to have to start. Right now, we pay for his cell phone bill, his car insurance.
We're such great parents.
I know. We're really nice. Well, so here's the thing. Jack and I came from very different worlds.
Right.
Where my dad bought me an almost brand new car when I was 16. And he then did not do that for any of my brothers because it was not a good decision. You know.
Meanwhile, I drove a 1979 Lincoln Town car as my first car, so it was called the Boat.
Yeah. Well, so we've kind of established, you know, that we need to be kind of somewhere in the middle of that. And while I am totally, you know, I don't love that, like, we're paying for some of those things. We've also been very clear that, like, when you graduate, we no longer pay for those things, right? And also, that does still give me some control over, like, if you don't answer my phone call, guess what? I'm going to take your phone back, right? So there is some, or if you don't come home when we told you that you need to come home, guess what? We get to take your truck back because we bought it for you and we pay the insurance on it.
Yep.
You know, so some of it is like, I want not like in a like controlling way, but like if you're not living by the rules of our home, there are consequences for that.
Sure.
And when I own those things, those are the consequences.
Correct.
So.
No, I totally agree. I mean, we obviously haven't reached that point in our parenting journey yet. But I've talked to the kids, like they will, well, for example, we've talked about cars, right? We're a few years away from like learner's permits and things like that. And I said, we'll have one kid car.
Well, because your kids are all so
close in age.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking 15 months between one set, 18 months between another, and 2 years between the other. Like they're like in high school, it'll be like senior, junior, sophomore, 8th grade. Gosh. So like they'll be like able to work. Mm-hmm. But I said, we'll have one kid car. You guys have to negotiate how that works. If you need a ride to work or something like that, mom and dad can take you. But if we're going out with friends, figure it out.
Yep, absolutely.
And you best take a like your sibling with you if they're saying, well, I want to go. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're coming. Like, figure it out.
Yeah.
You want to go on a date? Make it a double. Like, there's going to be a narc in the group. I need to know what's happening.
Yes, for real.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I know. I kind of wish, like, now we bought vehicles for each. Now, we did not buy. Like, I mean, they are hunk of junk.
That's fine.
Trucks.
Reliable.
It gets them from point A to point B.
Yep.
You know. However, I am kind of, like, I'm glad and not glad that we did that. Mostly because they live like very, 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 very different lives, even though they're so close in age that like it would end up falling on Jack and I constantly to take them to and from places. So I'm kind of fine with that.
And my kids are like, so what do you think we'll get for a car? And I said, details the cleaning company's X cars. So those things are already going to be paid for. And so that's what you'll get is a work car. They're like, but the girls are like,
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, I know it'll have high miles on it too, because we cover a vast circle. And so it'll get you where you need to go. And turns out you're homeschooled. Where are you trying to go?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Where are you going?
That's the one thing for you guys is like our kids obviously go to school. So
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll have sports. Lane's going to probably end up open enrolling. In the state of Iowa, you can do a dual enrollment.
Oh yeah.
And all he has to do is take like the state exam once a year. And then therefore if he does that, then he's eligible to play sports, take community college classes in high school and things like that. And so he will have and possibly Kaden, but they will have sports practices that they'll have to go to.
Yeah.
But turns out sports practices are probably all at the same time. So everybody gets to go to town together.
Yep. Yeah. It's pretty much true.
Yeah.
Okay. So one last question for you, because we're about wrapped up on time. If you could give somebody advice on either starting their own business or owning a homestead, what would be your one? I know those are two very different things, but what would be your one piece of advice, maybe for both things?
Honestly, one piece of advice goes towards both. My piece of advice would be somebody that wants to get into business or with the homestead would be to go slow. Don't try to do everything at once. You don't need to have the fanciest, the nicest, the best, the everything like that. Go slow, because just like with money, the quicker it comes in, the quicker it goes out. The faster you try to build something out, the faster it crashes. Businesses and homesteads kind of have a 5-year lifespan of failure, where the first 2 years are the honeymoon phase. And you are just doing all the things. This is so much fun. We love it. We love being a business owner. We love, having chickens, all these things. The second 2 years are where resentment happens, divorce happens, business failures happen, everything like that. And that 5th year is where things get dissolved.
Yeah. And
people move back to town and people quit businesses and they start working 9 to 5 because they realize being a small business owner or even on a homestead, there's no clock in, clock out. It's 24/7.
Yes.
It's 24/7. And so I would say take it slow on all aspects of it. Be happy with an occasional plateau. Like what I would give for a plateau right now. I was like, can I be bored? Can we have something boring happen? Because right now I always joke. I'm like, this would be a chapter in a book. This could be a chapter in a book. Like we had a kitchen sink fall through a countertop.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh.
The whole thing. Why? Because all they did was silicone the sink to the countertop. There was no brackets. There was no wood shims. And I've been in enough homes. I know exactly how they're supposed to be built. And I deal with so many builders. I'm like, this isn't on us.
Yeah.
We filled it halfway with water when it came crashing down. Anyways, so it's things like that where I'm just like, chaos all the time. But yeah, so I would say take it slow and then also give yourself grace with it, because it's not going to be perfect and everything's figure outable.
Yes, 100%. To add to your point of grace from my perspective, so real estate teams are kind of dime a dozen at this point. And a lot of people are either not running them well, or they're not a real operational business,
right.
Running a actual business. And I literally I'm on year 6. So our 6-year anniversary is in July. And I am just now, I was literally just talking with my business coach about this. I am just now to the point where I am seeing the fruits of my labor. And there were times where I was not paying myself at all, I was basically working my team for free, and I think a lot of people kind of throw their hands up too early, to your point.
Yeah.
That if you don't kind of see the really hard times through, you're not, it's not going to work out well. You're going to give up and go back to a quote unquote regular job or whatever.
I mean, there's been multiple times where with the cleaning company where we were short employees, we're still trying to hire. We're still looking for another full-time person. And it's one of those things where there was months where I didn't take a paycheck, literally at all. So that my employees could be paid. The thing is so many people don't understand the sacrifice that business owners make. in order to enrich their community by being able to, like, because I have people working for me whose mortgage relies on getting that paycheck on Friday. And, that was the other piece of hire an accountant.
Yes.
Hire an accountant. They're worth their weight in gold.
Agreed.
Anyways, so she runs my payroll. That's what made me think of it. And so that's the thing is, like, they're counting on that. And if I don't pay them, guess what? I don't have an employee, and I'm even in a worse position than I am. And I've built my life as such to where, like, I'm not on a day-to-day cleaning job because I'm running the farm. So when people, like, I'll have people come and pick up milk, and they'll be like, what are all these cars? I was like, oh, those are the girls that work for me. They're like, oh, on the farm? I'm like, no, for my cleaning company. And they're like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, no, I run 2 businesses full-time. 2 businesses full-time, like a psychopath. And I'm like, sometimes I feel like something's got to give, and other times I'm like, it's fine. But there's just, I mean, we're burning the candle at both ends, middles of middles, like.
Yep.
And.
But the thing is, like, when you, like, to your point, like, when you do it long enough, you do come out on the other side of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I feel like I didn't realize it. I just kind of was like, I'm just going to kind of keep doing what I'm doing, even though there were times where I was like, I want to stop doing this. This is not working for me, you know, yada, yada, yada. But I have the problem with, like, I can't quit what I've started.
Right.
But, like, once you get to the other side of that, it's like, oh, my gosh. Like,
yeah.
I didn't realize that this was the other side.
Is going back and, like, comparing my numbers month to month, year to year, and being like, okay, there's like a 15% growth in this month. Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Or, like, historically for the cleaning company, the milk business is busy 24/7. Like that, there's no off months on that. Actually, summer I've had some people drop off, but it works well because I'm drying off 2 cows to calve, so it's totally fine. But for the cleaning company, we've got 2 dry periods a year. We have January and we have June. And ironically, January wasn't terrible. And June, we're like projecting about like 25% higher than we were last year. So that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. But it's one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, oh man, what's July going to be? Because we have our reoccurring customers. We have our weekly, our every other week, and our monthly clients. And then we also specialize in deep cleans. And we do a lot of those. A lot. I'm looking at you, Mackenzie.
I know.
Is the water on? Do you know yesterday I had no air conditioning?
Oh, there's no AC in that house. None.
Oh, that's fun. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, I digress. Anyways, so we do a lot of real estate clients as well. And then people just doing like reoccurring, like annual, semi-annual deep cleans of their homes where we're in that home all day. And so I have an idea of what July looks like, but I also have those openings that would be scheduled for deep cleans. And it's like, will they fill up? Will they not fill up? I have girls on vacation for like literally half the month. Somebody is gone. So yeah, it's just.
Okay, I have one last question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
What is what are some of your goals like with Jason moving forward? Like, is there a plan for him to not work anymore?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. The good problem, bad problem. Good problem is Jason's union. So he's a steam fitter for the local 464. He is an area foreman over at Rasmussen Mechanical. Look at me name drop. Great company. We've been there for 19 years, almost 20. He's been there. He was there when we started dating and I was 17. He robbed the cradle. I was a junior in high school when we started dating, and here we are. Next month we'll be 15 years married, 19 years together.
That's so awesome.
So he'll be, the end of this year, he'll be at Rasmussen for 20 years. So he is so invested in his like pension and retirement credits. And with the cancer of it all, we have so many scans and things like that. I'm sorry, but self-employment insurance versus union health insurance, I'll take the union health insurance.
That would be my advice on this podcast is like, go look at how much you have to pay for the crappiest insurance when you are self-employed.
Correct. Correct.
Ours is like, we just have to hope that we don't get really, really sick.
Right. I mean, Jason's chemo was like $10,000 a week, approximately. That insurance covered, right? And so, and we did 4 full weeks of it, plus he had chemo the weeks in between for 1 day. So, I mean, it was so expensive. I bet altogether between everything and surgeries and all that, it was $1 million would be my guess, approximately. And like, so that's a continuing thing. So every 6 months he's doing scans, blood work, all of that sort of stuff. And so he's 40. His goal is to retire at the earliest that he can with being fully vested in the union.
Okay.
So probably early 50s would be our hope, since he's been in since he was 21 or 22, whenever they went union. I think that he would love to be on the farm, but also distance makes the heart grow stronger, right?
Jack and I have realized, like, we're together a whole lot more than we were even just a few years ago. While it has been good, there's also things about it that have not been good. So yeah, 100%.
Had my husband been home when I was running the mower through the electrical fence,
you guys might not be married anymore.
Right. I had to like soft launch that story to him. I had to tell him because our 4-wheeler that I take the milk machine down with to milk stopped working yesterday because I was going to use the winch on the 4-wheeler to pull out the mower. And that's when I realized it. So I soft launched with, hey, the 4-wheeler won't start. And he's like, okay. So we figured that all out. And then on the way home from baseball, when we got home, I was like, so I recorded these videos today. Do you want to see? And he's like, what happened? And I said, but you're mad about the 4-wheeler though. And I had nothing to do with that. And he's like, right. And I was like, so you can't be mad about this. Everybody's alive. Nothing's actually broken. And then he's like critiquing how I like hooked up a chain. I was like, you told me how to like lock the chain. And he goes, yeah, but you wrapped it around the weakest part of metal. I was like, it didn't bend. I said, God's on my side with this one. Sorry about it. So anyways, I don't know how well it would go working side by side in and out, like day in, day out. Because my hours are so weird. My days are bookend is what I call it. I'd milk early in the morning. I get my girls off to work, handle any like immediate client communications, and then kind of the same thing at night. And as far as processes go that you asked about earlier, I batch work ideally a couple times a week, where I call it a dungeon mode. And I look like a troll, and I just get as much done in those like 3-4 hours that I can get done to carry me through to the next time when I will have an opportunity to do that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe at some point he'll be home, but for right now, and honestly, he's such a busybody. If he came home, he would just start. He used to have a welding shop. He used to have his own business as well as like a secondary deal. He'd probably start something on his own. Yeah. I don't think he could just stay at home.
Sure.
Unless I make enough work for him to do.
Which you don't want to have to
when we buy the 40 acres across the street from us at some point, when somebody,
you keep putting this into existence, it's going to
happen. I've talked about it for 5 years now. I'm like, we are buying that 40 across the street, but it's not for sale. And I don't even know what the price will be when it is. So we'll see. Again, God's will, God's bill. We'll figure it out.
Yep, absolutely.
So.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on. I love these conversations, and I feel like I get to learn things about people, like my friends, that I didn't know. So thank you so much. And just a plug, if you are looking for an awesome cleaning company to either clean your home or your business or anything like that, Details the Cleaning Company is the name of it. I will put it in the show notes as well. And then also, if you are in the Southwest Iowa area or even in Omaha and you want to drive to Glenwood to get raw milk, definitely
raw milk, pork, and chicken is what we offer. You can visit detailsthecleaningcompany.com for our website. Is it updated? Probably not. Meet the team might not be right, but it's fine. And then loesshillscreamery.com is for the farm. That's where you can there's an FAQ page on there if you have questions about how our animals are raised. We're very holistic in what we do. And we do offer pasture-raised pork along with whole chickens.
Perfect. And I can also say that their pork is delicious too, because we've gotten a pig from you guys.
Again, from like hours away, we're our breeding hogs. So yep, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to Roots and Roofs podcast today. If you loved today's episode, please let me know. I love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to send me a DM or tag me in your stories so I can share it too. If you're looking for more information about today's topic, please visit my website, mahoganyacres.com, and all of the information that is listed in the show notes below. Until next time.